actively across the Izera foothills. Adventure, nature, uniqueness, multiculturalism, craziness, joy. It is difficult to grasp the various attractions of the Izera foothills. This alone is a fascinating challenge. As Cezary Wilczek writes, the charm of the land, the changeability of climate and seasons, the water tables, richness of minerals, and, above all, the artifacts created by people in the past from this region, the contemporary fruits of their work remain in memory. Let us just add that forever. Every guest which comes to the Izera foothills creates their own album of active memories. We bathed in brooks, the best swimming pool I've ever seen. We are going climbing. We're playing volleyball, and I love mountains. We'll come here many more times. We're going skiing. Active sport, nothing but health, and for the fun of riding. Unique landscapes, winter up there and spring below. These are interesting outdoor areas for taking photographs. We're grateful for being able to stay here as guests and going up the mountains in such luxurious conditions. These are unforgettable impressions. Here, tourism lovers will find cycling and running routes, canoeing trips, sailing basins, horse riding trails, and also hills from which paragliding enthusiasts can take off. All over the world, paragliding knows no borders, in particular here, where we fly very often. In the beginning, it was just a group of people, and now more and more are being bitten by this bug.
Ja zawsze mówię, że Pogórze Izerskie to jest najpiękniejsze miejsce na świecie.
The Izera foothills is the most beautiful place in the world. Although I've been paragliding in many places in the world, we were recently flying above Świeradów and the basin. The weather was very good and we talked on the radio about the beauty of our Polish lands.
Przy pięknej pogodzie przez radio rozmawialiśmy właśnie o tym, jak piękne są nasze polskie ziemie.
As it is emphasized by paragliders, it does not require a lot of money, staff or assistance. Equipment in a backpack and favourable weather will suffice. The Jezera Mountains is also a paradise for skiers. The routes are not only for skiers who put their strength to the test in downhill rides.
Ale także dla turystów, którzy poruszają się na biegówkach, latem dla
But also for tourists who move on cross-country skis, in the summer for those who walk with poles, and also those who ride their bikes. Actively across the Jezera foothills in the footsteps of history. Every journey has its beginning and its end, and sometimes it may be noiseless, but the one which we set out on today is not like that. For history lovers, the Jezera foothills is an area where a hardly describable number of original monuments, castles, palaces, manor houses and temples exist until today.
Nieskazitelny teren, przepiękna perspektywa.
An unspoiled area, a gorgeous view, for example, the one still on Leśnianski Lake. But the water reservoir is artificial because there's still the Kwisa River. 3 castles are encircled by the Kwisa River.
Wchodziły w okręg Kwisy.
On the right bank of the stretch of the Kwisa River, between Leśnianski Lake and Złotnicki Lake, are located the ruins of the Rajsko Castle. Erected around the second half of the 13th century by Bolko I, the Strict, the Duke of Swidnica, it was one of the fortresses guarding the Silesian-Lusatian borderland. Its ruins are located on the forest-coated elevation on the bank of the Kwisa River, southeast from Zgorzelec, about 10 kilometers south of Lubań. It takes about 15 minutes to get there by tourist trail from the holiday camp located next to the east end of Leśnianski Lake. For comparison, another treasure of the Jezera foothills, the Gothic stone castle Świecie, was built on a rocky elevation over the Brusnica River. This fortress was erected on the local gneiss stone for Bernard, Duke of Swidnica and Jawór at around the beginning of the 14th century. The entire complex is located on a quadrilateral area with an escarpment on the southern aspect and a stone defence wall on the northern and western sides. The manor in Grunowo, which was constructed in the end of the 18th century, is also interesting and mysterious. This is a one-story, 3-bay plan edifice erected on a rectangular area. It is covered by a 2-tiered pitched roof with pediments and dormers. On the ceilings of the ground floor rooms, stucco decorations have been preserved. Here we can also find a romantic park from the 19th century. For history lovers, the Jezera foothills also have numerous museums to be visited. On our way, we go past the Museum of Frocks, the Museum of Kargul and Pawlak in Lubomierz, and also the Museum of the Displaced and Exiled in Pławny Górny. Here, all roads lead to the destination, which means to the places which are simply unforgettable. Each of them waits for explorers, travellers, enthusiasts, and sometimes simply for tourists. In the picturesque landscape of the Jezera foothills, houses are also interesting, representing Upper Lusatian wattle and daub architecture. Their upper floors were built separately on pillars which surrounded the ground floor, the walls of the upper floor being built of straight and oblique beams, which were filled with wattle and daub. Nowadays, one might say that these houses have souls. The interest in these houses is now reviving. In the Jezera foothills, there are new facilities which have been opened with tourists in mind too. In 2013, among others, Char Chim Win and the underground tourist route in Giachin have been opened. Thanks to the European Union's means, it has been possible to rescue Char Chim Win from oblivion, and we, in turn, are guarding our regional products. We like the tourists visiting us here to be able to taste the bread which was baked by our grandmothers and mothers, which has been already forgotten today. This kind of taste is really very difficult to come across nowadays. Some children don't even know what the phrase traditional bread means, and only know the sort which can be bought in a supermarket.
Chleb nie taki kupiony jak w supermarkecie.
Opening the underground tourist route. The total length of the paths amounts to about 8 kilometres. The first site on the path is the underground tourist route St. John's Mine in Krobica, established on the basis of a complex of historical mine headings, the 16th century St. John Mine and the St. Leopold Audit, dug out in the 18th century. An entrance to the complex of underground headings, which has been made available for the purpose of sightseeing, leads through a hollow exhibition vestibule, from which visitors can enter the proper headings of St. Leopold Audit.
Są to wyrobiska bardzo ciasne, ich wysokość spada...
These headings are very cramped, and their height falls to 160 centimetres in some places. This is more or less so much, and their width falls to about 60 centimetres.
Nie wiem, nie widzę tego na tych ilustracjach, które posiadam.
Such oil lamps were fixed to the head by tying them. Miners did it so as to keep their hands free while climbing the stairs. Going through the St. Leopold and also the St. John audits, tourists leave the complex at the foot of a rock exposure over the stream in Krobica.
Znajdujemy się w tej chwili przy...
At the moment we're next to the exit of the underground tourist route of the St. John's Mine in Krobica. Currently the most modern underground tourist route in Lower Silesia and, at the same time, the oldest complex of mining headings in this region made available for tourists. The history of mining in this region dates back to the 16th century, when the first written source of information appeared about the existence of tin ore mines in this region. The deposits had probably been discovered much earlier, however, we need to rely upon written sources.
Nigdy w życiu nie byłam w żadnej kopalni, a bycie...
I've never been to any mines, and the opportunity to see one which was established centuries ago was something incredible.
Przejście samo i...
Walking through the mine, and its length is impressive. This facility hides a lot of history, as well as mysteries. Events in the Jezera foothills. One might ask what the foothills offer to culture connoisseurs. The answer to this question is even more complicated, because in this very area there is an absolutely unique example of variety. The local folk culture is the conglomerate of artistic and cuisine traditions from Polesia, Volhynia, including Bukovina and also the lands of former Yugoslavia. Contemporary culture is represented by sculptors, artists, including those working with glass and pottery, and specialists in other fields. In nearly every commune, every year at least one festival takes place, which is known all over Poland. From the Comedy Festival in Lubomirsk, for a few days in July, Wawłówek Śląski changes into the mineralogical capital of Poland and Europe. The agate summer in Wawłówek has been attracting crowds of tourists for more than 12 years already. The International Mineral and Jewellery Market boasts to be the largest event for collectors in the country.
Nastąpiły tutaj wylewy magmowe i powstały skały, które...
300 million years ago, magma outflows occurred here and these rocks were formed.
300 milionów lat temu, około.
After cutting through an agate, various patterns can be seen.
W zależności od domieszek innych minerałów.
Depending upon the admixtures of materials, these colours are different. Brown, red, different minerals give different colours.
inne kolory, po prostu inne minerały powodują inne barwy tych kamieni.
Let us move to Mieszko, where, for a few years already, the event under the following banner, Jezero Climates, Jezero Riches, organised by the local action group association Jezero Partnership, has been taking place.
Górze Izerskie przede wszystkim bogate jest.
The Jezero foothills are rich in handicrafts. People who live here have great conditions for creative activity. Here they can find nature, peace and quiet, and, above all, local products which they can use. They try to show and also combine modernity and tradition. Here we can also find great flavours.
Tą starością wspólną. Oprócz tego mamy wspaniałe smaki.
Here tourists and also inhabitants taste the local products typical of our region. Jezero stewed meat with cabbage, chalet dumplings, traditional bread with lard and cucumber, and excellent goose stuffed with pancakes are Jezero rarities. During the event, there is also the cyclical competition of Jezero talents. And the local artists from the Jezero foothills present their works in the town of handicraftsmen. As far as different kinds of events are concerned, sports events are also organised. The friendly horse breaking in competitions in the Ribnica stables have been taking place on the Jezero foothills for a short time, and for the majority of the participants they are, above all, something they are passionate about, and also good fun.
To się czuje, że się to kocha po prostu i
You just feel that you love it and you can't ignore it. The horse enchants your whole life.
naprawdę zaczarowuje całe życie.
To jest sport taki najbardziej kompletny.
This is the most complete sport I've ever done, and I do, among other sports, cross-country skiing, rollerblading and bike riding. But this sport fascinated me because it gives me the possibility of having contact with a living animal.
Dlatego, że oprócz tego aspektu fizycznego jest tu też aspekt taki kontaktu z żywą istotą.
Participation in the event of this type makes it easier to take part in nationwide competitions. This is a spectacular sport, enjoying popularity among tourists and also inhabitants. What is also spectacular is the figure ice skating shows which take place on Warsa's ice rink in Zgorzelec.
Bardzo fajne, ponieważ ludzie mogą zobaczyć, jak wygląda łyżwiarstwo.
I think it's very cool because people can live what skating is about. My greatest achievement was the Junior Championship of Poland for ice dancing, and currently I'm performing in skating reviews all over Europe. The banner of the event being Ice Show, attracting crowds of sport enthusiasts. To return to history, it is worth paying attention to the chief event under the following banner, Mining in Cichiercin Commune, Mysteries and Riddles. The coal basin of Zarambia in Cichiercin was one of the largest and most important ones in Upper Lusatia. The event taking place in Zarambia is a continuation of activities promoting the history of this region. Recreation, that is something for the body and soul. In the Jezero foothills, you can relax perfectly. Taking advantage of the charms of local agro-tourism. Złoty Potok Resort, Agro-Rib, and Karlovice Dolna are places where tourists can find peace, taking advantage of many attractions at the same time. These are places where you can do water sports or paraglide, admiring the gorgeous landscapes of the Jezero foothills from a bird's eye view. Due to the number of ponds, this is also the perfect place for angling. Or, for animal lovers, a mini zoo was also set up in Karlovice Dolina. One of the more unusual attractions of the Jezero foothills are rafting trips on one of the wildest Polish rivers, namely the Bobot River. The rafting trips are organised here through from mid-April until the end of October. This is the perfect time for close contact with nature. This attraction is interesting both for adults and children.
Generalnie ludziom bardzo się podoba ta rzeka, zwłaszcza na przykład Czechom, gdyż u nich nie ma takich rzek.
The river appealed to Czechs in particular because there are no such wild rivers in their country. Here you can swim for hours and you won't see a single building, even if you travel past villages, because this river is in a deep and hidden one. To fully relax above all, this is not rafting, this is not a fight against the elements, this is simply relaxation on the water. And the length of the river makes it possible to relax on the water for a few hours. The rafting trips are organised on the Kvisa and Nisa rivers too. What matters most in the foothills is people, for whom nearly everything is possible. Here, houses are full of artists. Perhaps because of this, the local action group association, Izero Partnership, includes as many as 17 communes. Perhaps the reason that the word impossible is not in the vocabulary of the founders of this organisation. The inhabitants of the foothills are also extraordinarily hospitable, and we took advantage of their openness. We visited, among others, Annette and Krzysztof Till's Museum of Rural Technique and Craft. The museum is located in the village of Zapusta, in a house typical of the regional Upper Lusatian architecture, built in 1830. The products of rural craft and household, the history of technique, and also artifacts connected with the history of the region are presented here.
Pasja wzięła się chyba z tego, że jesteśmy oboje zainteresowani historią. Skończyliśmy archeologię, poznaliśmy się na studiach. W związku z tym byliśmy tak jakby z natury zainteresowani rzeczami z minionej przeszłości.
History is our passion. We graduated at archaeology, met when we were students. So it was a natural course of events, being interested in the things from the past. We like having various items around us, and we like collections. At one moment, we had so many monumental artifacts that we hit upon the idea of setting up a museum. 10 years ago, we participated in establishing one of the first private museums in Świdnica. Next to their house, there is a large area upon which the larger museum exhibits are presented. The museum organises shows connected with the rural craft and technique, showing the technology used in rural households in the past and displays of handicraft.
W zbiorach naszego muzeum posiadamy kilka, moim zdaniem, bardzo interesujących muzealiów związanych z historią naszego regionu, że też wspomnę tylko o dokumencie z 1750 roku.
In our museum's collections, we possess a few interesting exhibits connected with the history of our region. One of them is a document from 1750 in which all of the inhabitants of the village of Zapusta are assigned their rights to land parcels, and their professions and memberships of social groups are stated. Attention is also attracted by a pencil sharpener, which is a very rare item nowadays. Few of those visiting the museum are able to identify this item.
Strzałkę do ołówków. To jest dzisiaj niespotykany przedmiot. Muszę powiedzieć, że bardzo niewielu z odwiedzających nasze muzeum jest w stanie zidentyfikować ten przedmiot, powiedzieć, co to jest.
Gromadzimy przedmioty związane z historią.
We collect not only items connected with the history of this region, but in our collections there are also collections which were bought by us from Wrocław. From this area there are, among others, agricultural machines, household articles, and also daily necessities, as well as photographs, postcards, and interesting documents.
Bardzo ciekawe niektóre dokumenty związane z tym rejonem.
Jednym z ciekawszych eksponatów jest też...
One of the more interesting exhibits is also a butter dish, an exceptionally large one, used for the production of butter. It was one of the facilities in a large household and served for producing large quantities of butter.
Już naprawdę dużych ilości masła.
A working 19th century bread oven can also be seen here. We cordially invite both tourists who will want to spend a few days at our place, enjoying relaxing combined with becoming familiar with history, but also people who inhabit this region, because it's very often the case that they don't appreciate what can be found here.
Ludzie, którzy mieszkają w danej okolicy, nie doceniają tego, co tutaj jest.
From Zapusta, we go to a magic village called Wolimierz, to a native inhabitant of Wrocław who moved to the Izera foothills nearly 20 years ago. Magdalena Kuźniarz graduated from the Academy of Fine Arts, Faculty of Interior Design and Designing. She specialises in painting and drawing. It is here, in the house on the hill in Wolimierz, that she has been running an agro-tourism household as well as her studio for many years. I was looking for something that can't be named, something different. What did I find? Certainly something I wasn't expecting. This is a mysterious place where time has come to a standstill. A land of glass, stained glass, painting and pottery.
Te tereny są związane ze szkłem i myślę, że to tak jakoś wyszło, że...
These are areas connected with glass, and perhaps this was the place that made me become interested in these matters. It just went on from there.
No jakoś tak po prostu się to samo potoczyło. W tej chwili głównie robię...
At the moment, I'm mainly making glass jewellery. These are very feminine items, which I like making, and this is my pleasure. But, as a matter of fact, I studied industrial design, so a sense of duty to make things which are useful is implanted in me.